I was here with a new Pax Day video. Today we're going to talk about the crafting spotlight that Mainframe dropped yesterday morning. So let's get into it, okay? First and foremost, right at the top, they dropped this little disclaimer saying it's possible that by the time the update is deployed, some minor changes will occur to the details below. So there's always going to be little tweaks and stuff. They're still working on the patch and trying to get it buttoned up for submittal and stuff. Koloko and Audric both said yesterday that, like, hey, if the patch was done, we'd be letting you know that it's coming out. So with that said, they're still trying to put a little polish and squash a few little bugs and stuff, I'm sure, before they get it out to us. So that's what they're saying here. This is like, here's the information, but we may have to make a few little tweaks to things before when the final thing comes out. So just to try to, to keep the people from going, oh, well, in 3 months ago, you said this. And so not that big a thing. So anyway, so basically, the main gist of this the spotlight was kind of them talking about their philosophy and how they approached the crafting update for verse 3 and how it ties into the combat change update, or the combat changes that are coming in the update as well and stuff. So I think you'll kind of see how all this uh kind of dovetails into each other and stuff. And I know there wasn't a whole lot of detail in what they talked about, and I think they're keeping it a little vague because one, they are still working on trying to get everything tweaked out, and two, they want us to discover this stuff on our own. It's not as much fun if it's spoon fed to you, uh, right from the get go and stuff. So let's get started with it here. So there are four key goals: easier onboarding, meaning basically when people come into the game, they want to start crafting. Make it easier for them to pick things up, figure out what they need, how to go about doing things. So they're saying you make it faster and simpler to start any core profession, removing the need for dedicated processing crafters to begin crafting. Um, on the Discord yesterday, people were basically saying that a lot of the tier one stuff you wouldn't need a crafter. So you know how we have the little crafting, like when you first come into the game, you got to make like your crafting hammer and a stone axe and some arrows and some stuff like that. It sounds like that crafting menu is going to be expanded in that vein, and then streamlining the early game and removing bottlenecks. One of the big things that people have complained about was that um, that sometimes you'd be crafting along and you're like, yeah, I'm working on this stuff and it's going great, and then you'd hit this recipe that was like required something that was like another profession and way high tiered type of stuff. So one of the things that's like there's the tall wooden cabinet, right? The tall wooden cabinet it opens up at level 19 carpentry, but it requires steel hinges, steel nails, rough cotton cord, and stuff like that. And those are all higher level tailoring and blacksmithing parts and stuff. I mean, you got to be level 30 before you can even start messing with steel. So to make those type of items for level 19 furniture pieces a little out of whack and stuff. And there were other bottlenecks. That one probably a little more extreme than others. So they're trying to like get rid of some of that. And this nice little picture here showing I think this is zoom in here. You can see, and my big head's in the way. This is like a fletching table and a spinning wheel, tailoring. I think that may be either a weaponsmithing or a blacksmithing table back there. You can see the little arm for the forge and stuff. Um, so moving on, real complexity, not confusion. This goes back into the trying to make it easier to get people into the game and into the crafting. Tier complexity, tier one recipes remain simple, but higher tiers introduce more layered ingredient chains. So what they want to do is basically when you're making lower level stuff, it's a more simple recipe. Hey, I need some linen cloth, and I need a couple pins, and maybe a button, and boom, I've got a tunic. And that's your tier 1 piece. Where versus when you get up to say your tier 3, your tier 4 pieces, there's going to be stuff like padded linen panels, uh, better looking buttons. Maybe there's some, uh, you know, other pieces. Maybe there's some buckles and stuff that are required to make those pieces. So as the level of the item goes up, the more pieces that are going to be required to make that and stuff. So they want to start small, and then basically as you get higher in level, then the items needed to make things gets more more complex. Cross profession clarity. It'll be easier to tell which components are for which profession and stuff. This is one of those things where a lot of times you're like, I don't know where this comes from, and it's like, so they're trying to work on that. Persistent value. Early tier items, especially tier 1, will retain relevance at higher levels, as ingredients or in alternate recipes. Now, there's a couple different things I've thought about with this, and I'll cover it a little bit more later as we get down and so you can see some of the items. But I think what they're trying to do is, you know, in a lot of systems, when you're making crafting items, it's like the stuff that you make at low level. Once you've outgrown that stuff, it's junk, and you never want to deal with it again. It's you come across even in this game, in the current version. If you're running dungeons and you grab like a loot pile, and it's like, oh look, I got a needle, or a pin, or an iron buckle, and your leather working's already like 35 or something like that, and it's like iron buckle, whatever. So I think they're trying to keep the amount of like junk items to a minimal. That way, it just makes the game better and makes more sense to a degree. Um, so, and you can see here's a new. Um, this is some sort of new bench that they've put into the game called the log workbench. I'm guessing this is sort of like a carpentry piece, maybe. Um, So he who works with his hands and his head and his heart is an artist. A rough hewn bench carved from a single felled tree trunk, fitted with pegs and crude planks, the cherished companion to every settler for simple crafting. I have no idea what that's going to be used for. A lot of people were saying it's going to be like a new basic carpentry bench, but it almost sounds like can be used for a lot of different things. So I'm not sure. This is maybe I think some of this stuff is like some of the frustration that people had with the update yesterday was the fact that um some of these details, there was, in some ways, it brought more questions to the forefront than answered questions. So, but we're getting there. So we're moving on to the third thing. Smarter dependencies. uh Components made by other professions will now be at least one tier lower than the item being crafted. Again, going back to that tall wooden cabinet thing where it's level 19, level 20 type of carpentry thing that's needing like a tier, basically one tier above in most of the pieces and stuff. So they're trying to keep that from happening to make it easier for everyone, especially like your single solo players and stuff like that. They won't have to like um be leveling stuff so crazy just to make a piece of gear that they want, or maybe they're more in the RP side, so they want like nice furniture for their houses and stuff. um this will preserve the interdependency between, and while avoiding deadlocks and confusion. Also reduces crafting overheads when you're focused on progressing in your own field. um, this change helps specialization valuable This keeps specialization valuable without punishing solo crafters or small groups. So there you go. Um, better pacing. This is one of the things that they wanted to really address. And they've said many times over the last few weeks is they don't want you standing in front of your crafting table forever trying to get you know where you're going and stuff. I know, like, I've leveled all of my crafting skills are 30 above except for fletching and jewel crafting. Because fletching is like ugh, and jewel crafting is not really needed yet. So, but like my blacksmithing is 40, um, my leatherworking is like 35, tailoring is like 37 or 38. So, but all of those required me to stand in front of the table or stand in front of some crafter and just like work and work and work and work and work. So they're trying to get rid of that and get you back out into the game to play and stuff. So what they're talking about here was uh, progress and cost are being balanced across all three core professions. So this is what ties back into the whole combat changes and stuff, with the 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 making the cloth and leather and metal armor all worth your while and stuff. So giving the roles. So this is basically changing up the tailoring, the leather working, and the blacksmithing. So by affecting those three things, they're affecting crafting as well. So they're trying to merge all that together into one piece. So um we're increasing the importance of gathering and reducing how long you are idle at crafting stations. So you're again trying to get you off the crafting table, back out into the world, gathering items, exploring, and seeing new things. Um, Changes include adjusting yields, ingredients cost, and XP multipliers to reflect this philosophy. My big thing here was this yields, because stuff like cloth pins, and I had really hoped that cloth pins was leaving Inversary, but you'll see later that the pins and needles are still here. But man, like, you could spend hours just grinding out pins and needles for tailoring right now, and you just want to pull your hair out. So I'm hoping they're making stuff like whenever you go to make a lot, bam, there's 100 pins or there's 500 pins or whatever, and try to fix some of that stuff and make it a little more tolerable. Excuse me. This means that your time in the world, gathering, hunting, and mining, is what drives your progress, not standing in still and watching a progress bar. So, again, get you back out into the world and stuff, which I think is great. What's new in the toolbox? This revamp comes with new workflows, new materials, and ultimately new gear. Here are some of the highlights. So, with new workflow, new spells and gear stats require new crafting inputs. Combat roles like tank, DPS, and healer are now reflected in the gear you craft. Reworked recipes will provide tactical choices for builders, gatherers, and fighters alike. So, with as it is now, pretty much everyone's running around in iron or steel armor and weapons and stuff. With this new change, you're going to have your cloth, your leather, and your metal running about and stuff. So they had to adjust the recipes to make that work. So if we go in here and look a little bit, you can see some of the recipes they've got going on. You can see they've added pieces for weaponsmithing. Like, here's a fine axe handle, a fine mace grip, fine spear shaft. This is where I was talking about the stuff being good later on, and I'm not exactly sure what. I don't think the bronze makes as much sense, but what if there's they made they talked about when we get, like, our pure iron is going to be reduced back into steel and stuff is going to be reduced all the way back to impure iron. um I kind of wonder if they're not going to reintroduce those recipes that allow you to make the higher tiered materials from the lower tiered materials, and having two recipes for bronze ingot here makes me curious as if that's what they're planning on doing. Um, in the next sheet, you can see here, there's two recipes for coarse linen cloth. There's two recipes for fine linen cloth uh, and linen cloth. So I wonder if they're not going to allow us to make those better tier stuff by refining the lower tier stuff up to those. So along with this sheet, you can see some of the new gear. Here's some of the cloth pieces. Cleric's Alb of Cleansing 3, 4. It's 2. Uh, Cleric's Alb of Reflection. Uh, Pantlet of the Hollow, Cap of Absolution, Magus's Hat of Fractured Time, and then there were some other pieces there like Pilgrim's Armbands and stuff like that. There's the Founder's Mantle and the Finery. So all those are still there. So yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe some of those pieces, or the way they're going to make some of this work, is that you'll be able to take those lower tiered items and refine those into nicer things that can be um, used for your higher tier stuff, and keep that going on. So then we get down to the new crafting components. This I thought was pretty interesting. They added a lot of some new parts and stuff that you'll be using to make this gear. Um, you can see they've stuffed linen padding. Um, there's a weapon belt, and can't see the tag, but this is a wrought iron cuirass and wrought iron lames. Um, I think what's going to happen is once you get to well, apparently with the wrought iron levels, you're going to make the chest piece, the plate part, and then maybe you'll have a belt, and these pieces here will be used to make the shoulders, and then you'll take those three pieces. Here's two leather pieces, or two metal pieces, a leather piece. Then maybe like you take the stuffed linen padding. You're taking all these pieces and melding them together to make a final out final piece of gear. So I think this is how they're going to try to keep you from having to make 5,000 spears to get to the next level. You're going to be making several parts to make one piece of gear and stuff, and that will be how you level your profession and stuff. One thing, they're adding buttons to tailoring. This is kind of cool. You can see they've kind of reworked some of the artwork for some of the pieces. We have suede leather in the game now. There's a sword hilt. There's a tiny vial and a vial. I don't know if there's any other vial pieces, which kind of makes me wonder. Maybe Alchemy's going to get a little bit of help. We go to the next page, and you can see we have heavy top grain leather. We still have inferior leather. We have impure iron ore, leather pads, leather straps. So some of this is new things. Linseed oil, that's completely new. I don't know where that's coming from. There's some other leather right here. This is you can just see the top of it. It's a medium top grain leather. You can see there's the mace grip, malt, lime. A lot of speculation in what the lime can be used for, whether it's an alchemical for leather working, maybe it's used for crafting. We don't know yet. So some pretty cool stuff there. Leather handles. I'm guessing those are for your doors and stuff now. So that'll be kind of cool. And there's a lot of different pieces there. Um, you can check all this out on if you go to the announcements page on the official Discord, or if you go to playpaxday.com, go to news, and you'll see this announcement there. So, and then we get into some of the cooler stuff here with new items replacing old gear. So this is where they're going to be talking about the new armor and stuff, and you can see uh, here. So they've got a couple different sheets here, and I'm going to pull those up so we can see what we've got going on. So, but you can see all the different stats. You can see the spells that are going to be coming with this. So this has a breath of spirit, um, breath of balance, breath of joy. Looks like some sort of well, I guess that's kind of what comes on the Orioles treads right now. So, and, you know, it's a movement ability. Breath of life is a healing ability. Um, uh, balance, isn't that a stamina one? I think possibly. And then I'm guessing the spirit is also to like get your. So you know, these all have some regen abilities built into it. The next piece, here's our cloth set. Shepherd's head hairband of quiet gaze 3. It's got pacify on it. Sacrament of life for the leg plate or the leg pieces there. The chest piece has verdant mend, which I'm going to assume is probably like a hot of some sort. And then there's a spirit stride, which I'm not sure. You would think that that's some sort of movement, but you can see like all the abilities listed. Energy, max health, healing done. So it looks like you get a healing boost by wearing this shirt. Um, the leg plates has a healing boost plus the ability to heal yourself a little bit more. And then max energy, stam regen on the headpiece. So, and then we get to the leather piece, and I thought that was a pretty cool looking piece. Um, and you can see it's got blue icon. So let's look at this real quick. So item power 575 for blue. The green is 475 and the yellow is 375. So this must be common, then uncommon, and rare. I think is the three things that they were coming up with. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But you know they're basically better pieces at the same level. So you can see that you know the item power basically between jumped by 100 for each one of them. So um, for abilities for this leather piece, we have kill mark. Netfall, there was a lot of questions asked, but no one was willing to give us an answer on what that is. I think somebody even asked at one point was, "Hey, is this like Featherfall?" And Osric was like, "No." So who knows what that actually is going to give us? We have on the chest piece we have Shadow Charge and then Breath of Joy 2. So an increased speed boost spell there. So these are all pretty cool looking. I like the different looks. Hopefully later on down the line when we get to some more customization, we can change the colors and stuff. So that'll be some pretty neat stuff. But that pretty much hits it. You know, there's some really cool stuff to look forward to, I think. A lot of these crafting changes, it's going to change the way we play the game. I mean, a lot of people have kind of said between the combat changes and all these crafting changes, we're basically going almost into a brand new game. And I tend to agree. I think this is going to be good. I'm hoping that it's going to bring a lot of people back to try stuff out. I know this year is kind of busy as far as other MMOs and stuff being put out. There's a game coming out next week maybe that's going to be drawing a lot of people's attention. But hopefully we will still have a lot of people coming back to Pax Day. At least that's my hope. Um, so anyway, um, you know, a lot, not as much as I was hoping for, but there's a lot of background here that I think is pretty good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of changes the crafting brings about. I'm actually considering taking a an alt, and I think a couple of people in my clan are doing this as well, is taking a new alt and kind of running through some of the lower level stuff again and try to get a feel for how it's going to be, so when we get to launch we won't be so completely lost in how things work and stuff. So um but anyway, um hope you've enjoyed this video. I appreciate you watching, especially if you've stayed to this point. You can like and subscribe if you feel so, and we'll see you soon. Hopefully we'll get some more information soon. I think they're talking about doing a Q&A in the next week or two. They haven't said when. We still don't know a release date. They're still saying it's spring, so by June 20th. So June 18th will be the 1 year anniversary of early access started. So maybe we'll see something like that happen. I don't know. But at any rate, we will be there. We'll be playing. I'll be streaming, and we'll be seeing how all this plays out. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon. Enjoy the game and be nice.